Ron Johnson is a Republican senator from Wisconsin, and he went on a radio show to discuss Obamacare and the recent Supreme Court case attempting to dismantle it. Let's listen.
You have an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today about the GOP being prepared to react when and if a few million people can no longer afford their health insurance as a result of the King v. Burwell ruling. And I like your main point. A lot of conservatives think that ruling in our favor, on our side of the aisle, would kill Obamacare. It doesn't. And we're going to be under heavy pressure to roll over to the White House and quickly fix it. And the White House is going to be proposing fixes that amount to passing a sentence or two of new legislation that closes up a few technicalities.
Yeah, precisely. Unfortunately, President Obama's response to an adverse decision, in other words, one that actually follows the law, would be really simple. Just a one-sentence bill allowing those subsidies to flow through federal exchanges and or offer the governors, hey, we know you got those federal exchanges, just sign the dotted line. We'll make those established by the state. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he'll have the ads all racked up with the individuals that have benefited from Obamacare on the backs of the American taxpayer. I mean, he'll have all those examples as well. So,
and the sad sack stories about who's dying from what and why they can't get their coverage. Oh, yeah.
That last part right there is so telling, because they're just casually talking about, yeah, whatever. So when Obamacare gets repealed, if we win in the case, some people die because they don't have health insurance, and we'll see the commercials or whatever. But, yeah, you know how that is. Sometimes you favor a policy that kills some motherfuckers. What are you going to do about it? It is what it is. But you don't have to favor those policies. You could be in favor of policies that, I don't know, maybe don't kill people for lacking health insurance, but they're like, well, obviously that's off the table. That's out of the question. We have to support policies that kill people. So when that happens, they'll run some commercials and it is what it is. That tells you something about how callous these guys really are. And what it really shows is how little their policy preferences factor in what's good for people. Like, I'm under the misimpression that the whole idea of having political conversations and debates is like, we think our ideas are better for people. No, we think our ideas are better for people. But they're like, well, no, that's not even a concern. Like what? Oh, our healthcare policy is supposed to be, like, good for Americans? That's not what we want. We wanted to give more money to rich people. What are you talking about? We want to make insurance companies more rich. Hello, they pay us for our campaigns. They're just so gross. Listening in on Republican conversations, you're like, that's so stupid and immoral in, like, 10, 15 different ways that we can discuss for hours. So that last part's really telling. But did you hear what they were talking about earlier there? Basically what Ron Johnson was doing is he was describing how, from a politics perspective, so not a policy perspective, but a politics perspective, the Democrats cannot lose on the issue of Obamacare. He was referring to this recent Supreme Court case about Obamacare, which again gives the Supreme Court an opportunity to dismantle it. And the whole idea behind the case is there's one provision in Obamacare which says that you have to have exchanges set up by the state. And the lawsuit says, in the original bill, when they say the state, they don't mean that the federal government can set up an exchange. They mean that only the state governments can. So what happened is, because of a previous Supreme Court case, they ruled that it's optional for states to set up exchanges. So the federal government had to step in when a lot of states said, we don't want to set them up. And the federal government had to offer their own exchange. So what this court case is doing is trying to make it so that the federal government cannot set up their own exchange, and like half the states just do not get Obamacare at all. And again, their argument is this one provision in the bill which talks about how the state, quote, the state needs to set up the exchanges. They say that doesn't mean the federal government. It means literally the state governments. So the feds can't do anything. So that's the whole gist of the case. But what Ron Johnson is saying is, Democrats, you idiots, if you knew anything about politics, you'd know that, let's say the Supreme Court case goes the way that Republicans want it to go and the way that I want it to go. All you have to do is propose a one-page bill in Congress the next day which says, okay, no, now we also mean the federal government too, that they could set up an exchange. Propose that bill and run a slew of ads that say, the Republicans want these kids to die. Look at all these people that are going to die because they don't have health insurance now. And he's like, we wouldn't have a choice. We would have to cave in because the political pressure would be way too much. We know we'd lose the next election if we didn't go along with it. So what he's saying is no matter what, we lose on the issue of Obamacare. No matter what, we lose. But as I was listening to him describe that, you know what I was thinking? I was like, oh, you idiot. You just told the Democrats something they definitely didn't know. They definitely didn't think about. Because look, Democrats, while they're much better on policy than the Republicans are, they're beyond idiotic in the politics realm. They're like chickens with their heads cut off. They don't know who's coming or going. They don't know how to make sense. They don't know how to argue. Look at what they just did with Iran. They get this historic agreement with Iran, a nuclear deal, and the Republicans are like, we want to dismantle this deal. Let us approve it. Let Congress approve it so we don't approve it. And they're like, no, we're not going to let you do that. Then a week later, Congress comes back and says, we have a new proposal, and this proposal would make it so that we get to check the Iran deal, but we're totally like for the Iran deal now, so can we pass this? And Obama's like, yeah, go ahead, pass. I'll sign that one. I won't veto it, I promise. And the other Democrats like, sign me up for that one. You guys seem reasonable now. They're tricking you, you idiots! So they have no idea how to play politics. I guarantee you, let's say the case goes in the direction that the Republicans want it to, and the federal exchange is just wiped the fuck out. The Democrats would have been like, what do we do? This is so bad. They wouldn't have been like, see, that's the thing, man. The Republicans, they know how to sell themselves. They know how to, literally to corporations, but they know how to package something and argue and slap down the other side like nobody's business. The Republicans were able to sell George Bush twice. He won his second election. No, people don't talk about that nearly as much as they should. We had Bush for 4 years. We already knew he was a dunce. We already knew he was an idiot. And everybody's like, I guess we're voting for Bush again. Why? Because the Republicans made a strong case. It's the same thing here. So Ron Johnson, dude, you let the cat out of the bag. But watch, even though he just told the Democrats how they can't lose on the issue of Obamacare, guarantee you no Democrat listens to this, and the Democrats probably won't take his advice if the case goes in the Republican direction. But here's what's for sure. They should, because he's right. The Democrats can't lose if they do that. Let's say the Supreme Court slaps down the entire federal exchange for Obamacare. I would release 20 ads the next day with people who are going to die as a result of this decision, and then I'd propose a one-page bill and say, hey, here's the fix. If you pass it, then you're for these people living. If you vote against it or you filibuster it, well, then you're against this child who has cancer for living. You want that kid to die. Why do you want kids with cancer to die? That's how you play politics, and the Democrats usually don't do it well, but what Ron Johnson is showing here is that while he might be stupid on policy, he plays politics with the best of them.